The Ford Capri was introduced in 1969 and went on to endure something of a cult following, particularly here in the UK, right up until it was phased out at the end of 1986. But the question is, why did Ford struggle to replace the Capri? Well, we thought we'd take a little drive out in this end-of-the-line Mark III 2.8 injection and compare it with this 2-litre Cougar to find out.
But first, our friends at Lancaster Insurance are running monthly giveaways. You can win all sorts, from experience days to tools, restaurant vouchers and tech. So click the link below at the end of the video to enter their latest competition.
So, if we're trying to work out why Ford struggled to replace the Capri, perhaps we should discuss what made the Capri so good in the first place.
Yep, absolutely, and a good place to start is this end-of-the-line Mark III 2.8 injection.
This is an interesting car actually, because they obviously stopped making the Capri at the end of 1986. This was registered in 1987, so a nice late example.
But by which time, the Capri had been running for almost 20 years, so a long production life. Certainly here in the UK, it definitely built a cult following over here, didn't it?
Ford wasn't really shooting in the dark, was it? I mean, it basically imported a very successful formula, a European answer to the Mustang, which basically took simple saloon mechanicals, clothed it in this really attractive coupe.
They made a desirable shape, hooked over some sort of tried and tested mechanicals, and then had a engine size and model derivative to suit every budget.
Everything from a 1.3 to within a year a 3-litre Essex V6. I mean, its slogan was the car you always promised yourself. And it gave you this incredible plethora of ways to do that.
The Capri offered that aspirational, desirable car without the expensive price or anything like that. So the Capri was that desirable sports car for every man. That's why its appeal endured, particularly here in the UK. Ford, did what they did best after that. Once they brought out that stunning Mark I, is that they just steadily evolved the concept. The Mark II comes out with the hatchback practicality. The Mark III version from about 78 onwards. And I love the way they evolved the styling still further with the family grille and the saw edge tail lights.
Yeah, those UA Barnton touches. Sales of the Mark II started to tail off towards the end of its production run, but although the Mark III is essentially the same car, just those little touches heightened the appeal once again.
There were then the specials, there was then the Tickford, the X-Pack models, the sort of RS models.
Yes. With the Mark I, you had, of course, the RS 3100. I love the X-Pack Capris. Something in signal orange or signal yellow, the big S stripes down the side. For me, that's peak Capri, actually. Having said that, being in this one might change your opinion a little bit.
I love the 2.8 injection. I love the advert for the original 2.8 injection where it was driving around in the pepper pots. The Capri kind of regained its mojo with that model. Testimony to, again, Ford's marketing power of identifying a model and creating a desirable model and then marketing it really well.
Yeah, because there's nothing groundbreaking about the Capri.
No.
I mean, there never really was. The Mark I is essentially based on the Corsair platform with the mechanicals of the Cortina and the Corsair. Very simple stuff, but clothed brilliantly and just made it desirable. It gave you the chance of getting out of that four-door saloon into something a little bit more stylish.
It stopped in Europe in about 84, I think. So really, the UK was the last bastion for the Capri.
Yes.
Kind of outlived its shelf life, because obviously sports coupes, their appeal in general, they started to deteriorate come the end of the 70s and the early 80s with the advent of the hot hatchback.
I suppose the Capri started very slowly to be seen as a bit of a relic of a bygone era.
Yeah, it starts to look a bit anachronistic by then, doesn't it? Because it doesn't have the practicality. I've been driving this now for a little while and I absolutely love it. There's such a visceral joy about driving this car, that sort of guttural roar of that clone 2.8 V6 injection up front. It's a really lovely, unstressed V6 engine with plenty of grunt when you want it to.
The fun thing about the 2.8 is it can have a bit of a split personality. It can be a bit of a hooligan and sideways and all the rest of
it.
But it can be a nice relaxed cruiser as well. I mean,
the controls are kind of light but manageable. You could get a real good sense of the road and the controls. There's no power assistance, there's no electronics, yet you feel so sort of in control. It feels remarkably agile. You can place the car nicely on the road. It's not intimidating to drive. I'm sort of driving it quite gingerly today because it's
Sub-zero.
Sub-zero, a bit icy, bit greasy out on the roads. We're not Bodie and Doyle in the professionals, unfortunately.
We're not Bodie and Doyle, and the fact is now that this is a £20,000 car.
It's hard to imagine, right? Because they shortly after they got phased out, 86, 87, there was a period of time when a Capri would have been considered quite naff. Became the choice of Derek Trotter, of course, in Only Fools and Horses.
Yeah, 1991, wasn't it, when he turned up in his Pratmobile?
It's just become a naff old car by then, which is a shame because it betrays the genius of the concept when it first came out in 69. But we've now transcended that, so now they're desirable classic icons. You know,
we remember them fondly. We've got this nostalgia. I've seen 2.8 injections at auction fetch more than £50,000.
again, it's testimony to the appeal of them back in the day, the iconic status that it built up for itself, and it all starts from that fantastic shape, beautiful coupe lines, clothing sort of tried and tested mechanicals.
Yeah. Achievable.
Yeah.
An achievable hero.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we like them so much.
No, I'm really chuffed we got a chance to drive this today. I absolutely love it. But listen, I reckon we've revelled in the romanticism of the Capri, and we should head back, take a little drive in that Ford Cougar, see if we can understand why Ford never really recaptured that original glory of the Capri. Right, so here we are then, Jeff.
Yeah.
In a Ford 2-litre Cougar.
Yes, Ford's second attempt
At replacing the Capri, because there was the Probe beforehand, wasn't there? Which came out in '94.
94. So we got the second generation Probe, didn't we? Here,
Yeah.
a rebodied version of the Mazda MX-6. Mazda underpinnings, Mazda 2-litre or a 2.5.
And actually, I personally like the look of the Mark II that we got here in the UK. I think they had sort of whiffs of Knight Rider about it, which I quite liked. It just didn't capture the imagination in the way the Capri did.
Just didn't hit the mark, did it? And I think there's several reasons for that. Rather unfortunate name.
Yes, slight sort of phallic name maybe is not very helpful. Is it also the fact that whereas the Capri was a suitably sort of Europeanised Mustang, the Probe was the Probe. I mean, the Probe was on sale in North America pretty much as is.
Yeah, it's built in Michigan, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, the Capri was built in Europe. Felt a bit like a quick fix, didn't it? Bringing something over rather than designing something bespoke. So having failed with a car built in Michigan, Ford decided to do it again.
Do it again with the Cougar.
Give it its credit. It's a good-looking car. Ford, by then, well into its 90s resurgence, and it had
Sort
the
of
new edge style.
Yeah, new edge styling. Yeah,
with
absolutely.
With the car Puma, which was, I think, is a fantastic car. As you know, I'm a huge Puma fan. And then, of course, the Mark I Focus as well. Ford quite successfully got its triangles out again to create this.
This is based on the Mark I Mondeo concept. It's a bit like the Capri. It inherits sort of fairly basic family saloon underpinnings and then tries to put it in a more sporty, sleek shape. But for some reason, I don't think the proportions of this are as successful as, say, the Mark I Capri is.
No, it's quite a big car, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite a bit longer than a Capri and longer in the wheelbase, but for some reason the proportions don't work for me. The rear haunches are just a bit too bulbous for me.
Problem that you have with this had the option of the 129 horsepower 2-litre, which is what this one is, and the 2.5 V6. Even in 2.5 V6 form, which is something like 168 horsepower, wasn't particularly quick. Much more of a grand tourer. I suppose you sum it up with the adverts for the Puma had Steve McQueen in his Bullet and his Mustang through San Francisco, whereas this was Dennis Hopper and Easy Rider, you know, and it is, I think it is the Easy Rider, isn't it? It's the cruiser. I'm not sure that made it exciting enough to tempt people out of buying a Mondeo.
And well, yeah, that's a good point. And actually, it's quite refined, isn't it?
It's
smooth.
Not very exciting, is it?
No.
It's really competent as a Grand Tourer with that big boot, nice styling, but would you go out and drive it on a Sunday afternoon for the sake of it? I'm not sure you would.
Yes, no, I think there's a lot to that. It's all, like you say, it's a bit too polished almost. It lacks that kind of raw, visceral appeal that the Capri had.
Yeah, it doesn't quite stir the emotions in the same way as the Capri does.
It's a genuine 4-seater coupe, quite practical. Probably more practical than a Capri would have been over, say, Cortina or Sierra counterpart. But
an ST24 Mondeo.
Exactly.
Is it cooler than a Cougar?
I think it probably is, unfortunately.
It probably is. As much as I think this is a really competent car, the buyers agreed, didn't they, at the time?
Yeah.
Probe only sold 15,000, well, this only managed just over 12. Possibly deserved to be more of a success because it is decent.
What's the steering like? It's nice.
Lovely.
Nice
It drives like a Mondeo.
Yeah.
It's so nice and easy and light. Yes, I should talk more about the driving experience, but because it's quite vanilla in that sense.
Arguably, in spirit at least, is the Puma more of the essence of a Capri than the Cougar.
There's an argument to that, but I think the Puma stands alone, actually.
It's got its own character. So as a concept, the Puma is a more successful outcome than the Cougar is.
Yes.
And all the raw ingredients for the Cougar suggest it should have been more successful than it was, but it just for some reason doesn't quite capture the essence of, say, the Capri did. But that's not to detract from the Cougar. It's still a comfortable, practical and stylish car, but it just doesn't feel like a Capri. And maybe that's the answer. Maybe the Capri was just so right and so successful that not even Ford know how to make it again.
This video is proudly sponsored by Lancaster Insurance. Give them a call on 01480 400 889 for an insurance quote on your classic car. And don't forget to click the link below to enter their latest competition.